Your Lordship, the Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and the Co-Chair, all the members present here, protocol observed. It's a pleasure appearing before you on a very important subject, Mr. Chairman. And I'm pleased again to head a delegation here comprising of the leadership of the People's Front for Freedom, a political party which is duly registered and operational here in Uganda. We shall proceed like this, Mr. Chair. You will permit me, I'll give an overview briefly, but we have a written text, clause by clause, as you guide how you, my colleagues here, will take you through that after to state, without any fear of contradiction, that Mr. Chair and colleagues, MPs, Parliament will have committed treason. Treason within the meaning of Article 3 of the Constitution, and we seek to substantiate, Mr. Chair. Parliament has got no power to upset the current constitutional order. Actually, your obligation, I don't need to emphasize it, is to uphold the existing constitutional order. The current constitutional order is anchored on the sovereignty of the people under Article 1. Now, this bill, which seeks to protect the sovereignty of Uganda, is an affront to Article 1 of the Constitution. Because Article 1 of the Constitution talks about sovereignty of the people, not sovereignty of Uganda. Uganda is a country with its structures. Uganda has got a government. Uganda has got structure and people. So now, when you put that structure called Uganda above the people, you'll have overthrown Article 1 of the Constitution. Because what is supreme ultimately is not Uganda, but the people of Uganda. Now, when you go to Part 2 of the bill, yes, in the object, the contradiction comes in. When you go to the objects clause, it says the bill seeks to provide for the protection of the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. Perfect. That's the objects clause, number 1. But when you come to Part 2, protection of sovereignty, this is where now the gist of the matter is. The bill says protection of the sovereignty of Uganda. In the objects clause, you are talking of sovereignty of the people. Then when you come to Part 2, protection of the sovereignty of Uganda, by prohibiting the involvement of a person in any activity that promotes the interests of a foreigner against the interests of Uganda. That's where this bill goes wrong, to begin with. And this takes you to clause 5. And I want to take you there, Mr. Chairman and honorable members. Clause 5 purports to anchor this bill on Article 1. In accordance with Article 1 of the Constitution, the people of the Republic of Uganda shall have sovereignty over social, economic, political policies affecting the governance of the Republic of Uganda. But now you go to sub-clause 3 of clause 5. A person shall not engage in any activity that promotes the interests of a foreigner against the interests of Uganda. So the point here, you are not emphasizing the sovereignty of the people, but you're emphasizing the sovereignty of Uganda. This is not semantics. Uganda is a geographic territory. Now, the interests of the people of Uganda cannot be protected by this bill because it purports to shield the country against foreign interests. But the sovereignty of the people is not threatened by foreign interests only. So if the bill wanted to operationalize the provisions of Article 1 of the Constitution by upholding the sovereignty of the people of Uganda, it shall be provided for both clusters, domestic threats and foreign threats. Now the domestic threats against the sovereignty of the people of Uganda are not captured here. So in other words, the law is focusing on protecting the interests of Uganda as against the interests of foreigners. So the bills you have benchmarked, the democracies you have benchmarked, the instruments, they protect the interests of their countries against foreign interests. They don't purport to protect the sovereignty of their people against foreign interests. Because the interests of Uganda are different from, are not necessarily pari the interests of Ugandans. So I don't know whether that point is very clear. We have not seen any clause here that speaks about domestic threats to the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. And they are so many, they are widespread. The will of the people has been overthrown several times in elections, in economic policies, education, all spheres of life. The threats are there, they are real, they are actual against the sovereignty of the people of Uganda. This is what ought to be protected by Parliament if you are to operationalize Article 1, which emphasizes that the sovereignty of the people is supreme. So we shouldn't be talking about Uganda, but the sovereignty of the people. 2, foreign interests are not defined. And this has been, I think, addressed in several fora. You cannot criminalize promotion of foreign interests which are ambiguous, which are not defined at all. And it's not this committee which is going to be established in the Ministry of Internal Affairs that is going to register agents of foreign interests, which will determine which ones are foreign interests and which ones are not. The bill also talks about foreign policy. When you look at clause 9 and clause 10, they simply talk about the principles that will guide Uganda's foreign policy, but they don't define what amounts to Uganda's policy. So who is going to determine Uganda's policy and what amounts to foreign interests? Which body is going to determine that? So if I am going to appear before the chairperson of that committee on peace and security, are they going to first assess and say, okay, what you are going to register here is foreign interests? So go ahead. Or personally, before I pick out the forms to go and seek for registration, how do I establish that actually I'm representing foreign interests, which are not defined? So that is a fundamental issue. Again, when you look at that same clause 10, which talks about the foreign policy, the principles are also vague in clause 10. They are vague. Mr. Chairman, they are bound, they are susceptible to manipulation. That rather clause 9, promotion of national interests of Uganda, respect of international laws and the treaty obligation, peaceful coexistence and non-alignment, settlement of... Who has determined this? Where do I find them? Is it a reproduction of the principles set out in the preamble to this constitution? I am saying no. Because the principles of national policy and state policy are well articulated in the constitution. You are not about to come up with a new set in a subsidiary legislation. I'm sorry to call it subsidiary in terms of constitutional law. So the third, and before I wind up, Mr. Chairman, this clause 6, which criminalizes provision of services that are considered to be a prerogative of government. Clause 6 excludes those services provided for in Schedule 6 to the Constitution. I don't have the luxury and time to read all those provisions. But the point I wanted to make, Mr. Chairman, they are rendering this country extremely difficult to get support from good Samaritans who would wish to come and offer services. Because Schedule 6 is widespread. I mean, is broad, sorry. Schedule 6 is quite broad. It provides for a litany of services where you will have to seek government approval. I'll pick out one example. When you look at paragraph 27 of Schedule 6 in of the Constitution, it talks about matters to do with health. Well, they may be talking of maybe police or whatever, but health. Just for example, as an anecdote, there is a policy right now in this country that members of parliament step in to offer medical services to their respective constituencies where government has failed to provide the same. The ambulance system being run by members of parliament. It's a policy in this country. I'm sure a majority of the members of parliament here have got ambulances in their constituencies. And now this law says if you were to come up with that policy of offering services which are ordinarily a prerogative of government, a mandate of government under Schedule 6 of the Constitution, you must seek cabinet approval. If you don't, you'll have committed an offense. So immediately after passing this legislation, MPs will be committing an offense to offer ambulance services to their constituents without cabinet approval. That's an absurdity. It talks about health, education. It talks about so many other things. It's terrible. It's dangerous, Mr. Chairman, for you to proceed with that. The second last now, Mr. Chairman, definition of an agent of a foreigner. I'm afraid my construction of this particular clause, if it is passed in this current form, all of us who are seated here, including you, one or the other, you are covered under that particular clause. Many of us, in the way we have operated, we are agents of foreigners. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but just let me briefly, as I articulate this issue, agent of a foreigner means a person who acts as an agent, representative, employee, or servant, or any person who acts in any other capacity at the order, request, or under the direction or control of a foreigner or of a person, a foreigner or of a person, any of whose activities are directly or indirectly supervised, directed, controlled, financed, or subsidized by a foreigner. And a foreigner is the one or the other includes even citizens who are domiciled outside Uganda, or lawyers who are representing clients who are non-residents here. I have seen a number of lawyers here, including my senior here, I'm sorry to mention this, Honorable Katuntu and others who are seated here. All of us, one or the other, we are representing foreign interests. On our team as PFF, Mr. Chairman, we are already worried, and we want to go on record on this. Dr. Chiza Besigye, you know, is incarcerated and is facing a trial right now as we speak. And his team comprises of lawyers who come from outside the jurisdiction. Actually, the head of our legal team, the legal team for Dr. Chiza Besigye, who is the leader of SEPS. You have had members of SEPS, Honorable Afrogut, Honorable Bakando, and others. So the head is Colonel Dr. Chiza Besigye, who has spent 527 days as we speak today in jail. The leader of the team is Martha Karua. She's domiciled in Kenya, and she's a resident of, she's a non-Ugandan. But the law permits her to come here and get a special certificate and practice in a specific matter. And we complied with that. The law council processed her PC, and it is valid. So once this law now is passed, she will be required to go to that committee before, in the Ministry of Internal Affairs to register afresh. Yes, she is a foreigner who is practicing here. And the law says, okay, let me put it differently. The law provides for a foreigner who comes here to do that kind of business. And myself, I have a law firm where Martha Karua is attached. So in this particular case, I am an agent of a foreigner. I am an agent of a foreigner called Martha Karua, because the law requires that for you to be allowed to practice here as a foreigner or a person from a different jurisdiction, you have to first be attached to a particular law firm. So as we speak today, for purposes of handling Dr. Chiza Besigye's case, Martha Karua is a member of Lukwago and Company Advocates. So I am an agent of Martha Karua. She is a foreigner. So I'll be required to register. And many of you, it's a problem. I've already satisfied the law. There are layers of legal processes we have to go through. So we are saying, Mr. Chairman, that is an absurdity which you are legislating. And I want to conclude by a matter of procedure. Just a matter of procedure, Mr. Chairman, that the way the bill is being fast tracked is really worrying to us, Mr. Chairman. You can imagine even when we invited us here at 10 and we had to wait for this long. Now, when you gave us a slot, we had people complain that, oh, why? Why don't you take the natural process so that the bill is processed in a normal way, in an ordinary way? So that we come here, like one day, you have one group, because right now I'm rushing to finish, yet I needed enough time, ample time to thrash through this and then be able to make a coherent presentation. But we are being stampeded to rush through this bill, Mr. Chairman, yet it's very, very important, and it touches on the foundation of our Constitution, the foundation of this country, that is the existing constitutional order. We ask you, Mr. Chairman, if possible, you put this bill aside. Our call is that, Mr. Chairman, this bill should not be processed at all. You leave it. Then you continue with other business. I invite my colleague, Mr. Chairman, to come.
Thank you, the Lord Mayor. And